who knows really what he's going to do, but it's going to be technical.
I don't get you.
It's going to be real technical, that's what we know. So we've been collaborating for the past 6 months or so, putting in weather stations all around the Newtown Creek watershed. So it's taken a lot of partners. The project actually came originally from the SWIM Coalition, which is a citywide advocacy organization that focuses on stormwater management and CSO relief. And we had installed the machines on the libraries. We started out trying to work with public schools. And if you've ever tried to do anything on the roof of a public school in New York City, you'll realize why we changed. We jumped out of that ship real quick, and we started to work with the public libraries, who are amazing partners. And we picked up these along the way. We were originally funded by the EBP money that we probably all have been funded by in a certain way. But this year we just got picked up for a new grant from Deutsche Bank, which is super exciting. So we're going to continue this project. So quickly, what is a watershed? We've looked at a lot of zoomed-in maps of the creek. So here we are, Newtown Creek, but the watershed is all the land that drains into the creek. So whenever we talk about CSO, or sewer overflows, that stuff comes from this larger upland area. So it's a little complicated in the city because we've got a sewer system. But basically we have Bowery Bay drainage area, everything goes up there when it's dry. And then Newtown Creek on the Newtown Creek that collects all of this sewage from Lower Manhattan and Queens and Brooklyn and sends it to treatment there on Newtown Creek. But when it's raining in New York City, we have CSOs. That watershed looks like this green area. And so that's where we started. Really, both of these, the red and the blue, are kind of functional units and are interesting for us to learn about. But we really, we had to start somewhere. So we started really in that green, what we call the natural watershed, which is really not a natural watershed. But anyways. So why we started to do this, the point for the SWIM Coalition had to do really with a citywide view of what was going on with the sewer system, the way that the city was alerting people to water quality problems, and then the really, like the Plan YC style advocacy that's been going on from a different part of the same city to really get as many people out on the water as possible. And we saw these things as being a little bit in conflict. And then just zoom into Newtown Creek, where we have so many other water quality issues going on, and we have a boat club of our own. We really saw our boaters as the client for this type of information that we would collect about weather. So I'm going to turn it over to Lee for a moment.
So I came to this project after doing a lot of research in grad school about CSO monitoring and trying to understand when combined sewer overflows happen, the impact on water quality, how long that takes to recover, and how to do sort of accurate in-situ direct monitoring. And I won't get into all the details of that, but it became a lot more difficult, one, to develop the hardware, and two, to get the bureaucratic permission to actually install sensors in physical city property. And some of you know that there are 490 of these CSO locations throughout the city, so it's kind of a vast problem. It's something that I'm still trying to tackle on that end. But what came of it was that I started looking at some alternate ways to understand when a CSO happens. And in New York, thanks to all the fantastic engineers at DEP, very rarely do we have a sewer discharge on a dry day without any rain. And so it means that the only factor that contributes to combined sewer overflow is rain. So looking at that sort of absolute contributing factor was simple in understanding when it rains, there's likely to be a CSO. So we started by trying to figure out if there was enough data to understand if we could calculate the potential for a combined sewer overflow from rainfall data. That was the sort of the stepping stone for us, because we could guess, say, hey, it's raining outside, but our guess would be pretty wild. And so from DEP, we were able to get some information that gave us a real simple baseline of understanding how much rain causes a CSO in what areas, and sort of the duration of the impacts on that. And so we started to look at how the DEP was doing their modeling, and they were doing modeling based on sort of these 3 central rain stations in New York: the Central Park, LaGuardia, and JFK, which is a huge big gap. And Newtown Creek's sort of smack dab in the middle, and rain patterns move like crazy through the city. They get shifted by the the heat island effect and things get pushed around. So it's a pretty vast area to triangulate in between for rainfall data. And so we started installing these weather stations. These are the two of the newest ones installed in Queens. We've got now 5 in Queens and 5 in Brooklyn. And they're all feeding, here's the map. They're all feeding data in real time. And using a little piece of software, a really simple piece of software, taking the data from the maps and making this CSO alert, this idea that's giving us, when we can provide an alert to someone. And so what kind of data do we get? We get lots of really cool data and a lot of stuff that we're not actually paying that much attention to on a daily basis, but check out this barometric pressure dip here, right there in the middle of this graph here. This was very nearly the lowest barometric pressure ever recorded in New York City during Hurricane Sandy. It was like very, very close to being a record. And all of our weather stations that stayed online with power and internet recorded this kind of data. And the best part about this is data is all public. So if you're curious about the weather in your neighborhood, this data is now available to you to learn about these things, barometric pressure, wind, and stuff like that. That's great. So what do we do with the data? I kind of jumped ahead a little bit and started talking about this idea. But the real point of this is getting this information out to people to understand that when there's a combined sewer overflow happening, there's significant impacts on water quality. So for the boaters, and I'm a member of the boat club, not the best time to go out in the water. But also to encourage people to engage in kind of direct conservation at that point. Everyone can kind of hear the constant murmur of conservation and save water and save the planet. But the idea of this is really kind of a direct point saying, now is a great time to save water. And it gives you like a real direct understanding of your impacts on the environment. Because during the CSO, any water that you use that goes down the drain is most likely going to go directly into the harbor. So there it is, CSO alerts on the Newtown Creek site. If you just go to Newtown Creek, is it newtowncreek.org?
Newtown Creek Alliance.
newtowncreekalliance.org, you can see it in the sidebar. And right now we're just doing kind of sewer shed wide alerts. So we've got Newtown Creek here and Bowery Bay. And this kind of gives us an idea, depending on which side of the creek you're on, what the status of the sewer system is. And more detailed information is coming, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But can you access the data? You can find out on the site how to get. We have an awesome map that's hosted at habitatmap.org, where you can see the location of all our weather stations. And when you click through there, you get a little blurb about where the weather station is, and you can then follow the link to the Weather Underground site. And all the data is being hosted on a service called Weather Underground, and it's a service that's actually dedicated to providing citizen science style weather observations, and they have the largest network of personal weather stations in the world, and they use all of this data.
Graphs.
Yeah, they use all of this data to actually make hyper-local weather forecasts, which is pretty cool. So cool that Weather Channel bought them. They have so much cool data that they like it too much. Yeah, coming soon, we have this World Water Day. We're going to do a workshop at Sunnyside Library. We're going to talk about the things we presented today. We're going to talk about the system. We're going to talk about how people can get involved. And hopefully, by then, if I can get some stuff together, we'll have a super simple prototype of an SMS alert. The idea is to be able to provide local residents with something that you can actually sign up for a much more localized area of your neighborhood than what the New York City is giving out. And you can get a text message alert when we have a CSO alert, kind of a suggested CSO alert. And then Kate will talk about the last little bits.
Yeah, so we're basically going to be doing programs in the libraries, and that's what we're funded to do this next year. And in order to really kind of multiply our capacity, we would really love to have volunteers. In particular, in April, we're going to do a number of kind of train-the-trainer events and working with the public in different branches. And it's a great opportunity if you want. It's kind of Newtown Creek Alliance always has a hard time receiving volunteers because it's not like we can all go down to the creek and like dig around or something and like start dredging or something. So this is one of these opportunities where we can actually work with volunteers. It would be great to have people come and sit in on these trainings that we're going to be doing and become the next trainers and start to offer these. It'd be great. I would love to see a monthly program in each of the branches where somebody just went in, opened up the data, looked at what could interpret the data and talk to people about what was going on. talk about how many CSOs happened that month, or, you know, and to take a look at the other things that are going on in the watershed, have people really think about this idea of living in the watershed. So, you can approach both of us. My contact information is...
Next slide, yeah.
Contact information is right there, and I think it's also on your agenda. And thank you.
Yeah, and to all the members of Newtown Creek Alliance and the North Brooklyn Boat Club, you guys are probably going to be our first pilot for this SMS application. So when that comes available, please do sign up. That we'll pass that information along, and I hope that it doesn't spam your phone.
If you follow us on Twitter right now, you'll get an idea for the frequency of the tipping point for CSOs. You get an idea for the frequency of these messages. So also follow us on Twitter. If you go to the